It started with a letter. Just a plain white envelope. No warning. Slipped into the rusted mailbox at the end of the gravel drive that winds up to my old lake cabin. The address was printed in sharp block letters. The return address read, Clearwater Shores Homeowners Association. I nearly tossed it straight into the fireplace, assuming it was another complaint about my grass, or a reminder that my roof offended someone's sense of uniformity. But curiosity wins out. Inside, a formal notice. The HOA was initiating proceedings to evict me, citing unpaid dues, landscaping violations, and an unauthorized dock. The language? Firm, almost smug. Failure to comply will result in legal action, including but not limited to, you know the kind. At the bottom was a signature. Linda Dett, HOA president. I'd met her once. Thin lips, clipboard, perfume that smelled like nail polish remover. She made it abundantly clear she didn't like that I skipped meetings, ignored dues, and worst of all, hadn't painted my cabin in one of their pre-approved color palettes. What she didn't know, and what I hadn't thought relevant until that moment, was this. I never joined the HOA. I couldn't have. You see, my grandfather bought this land long before Clearwater Shores even existed. Back then, it was just woods, rock, a cold, deep lake full of trout. He built the cabin himself in 1952, dragged timbers down from the ridge, hammered it all together one summer. Our lot never subdivided. When developers came through in the 1980s to parcel up the shoreline, they skipped over us. Too rocky, too irregular, too wild. My grandfather held on. So did my father. And 5 years ago, when Dad passed, I inherited the place. Back then, it was just a creaky cabin with no internet and a wood-burning stove. But over time, it became my refuge. Weekends turned to weeks, then months. I fixed the roof, rebuilt the dock with cedar planks, cleared the overgrowth, paid my taxes, kept to myself. I assumed that was enough. Apparently, it wasn't. I called the number on the notice. It rang 6 times, then a mechanical voice told me to leave a message. I emailed. No response. A week later, a man in a polo and mirrored sunglasses knocked on my door. He handed me another letter. This one from a lawyer. Colder, more formal. They claimed my dock encroached on community property, that I had no right to live there unless I complied with HOA regulations. 30 days. That's what they gave me. I could have packed up and left. That would have been easy. But something about the tone of those letters, the assumption of control, the presumption of power, it dug under my skin like a splinter. So I did what my grandfather always said to do when things got messy. I pulled out the paperwork. Took me days to find it. I dug through the attic, boxes labeled in my father's tidy handwriting. At the bottom of one, buried under old fishing licenses and photo albums, was a thick folder marked Land Deed. Inside, a yellowed sheet of paper, stamped and signed in 1952. It named my grandfather as the sole owner of Lot 7, a crescent-shaped parcel wrapping around the north shore of the lake. Attached was a hand-drawn map, marked boundaries, a note in the margin, riparian rights extending 75 feet beyond shoreline. I stared at that map for a long time. If it was accurate, and I had no reason to think otherwise, then not only did I own the cabin, the dock, and the shoreline, I also owned the very land where the HOA had built their communal dock. It wasn't community property. It was mine. Next step? Confirmation. I hired a local surveyor, Mitch, grizzled, Smelled like diesel and coffee. I handed him the map. 2 weeks and several $1,000s later, Mitch came back with a full survey. He looked at me and said, "You're not going to believe this." Turned out my deed covered even more than I thought. 20 feet into what they claimed was common shoreline, including their dock, their maintenance shed, even their little bench with the HOA plaque. I asked him, so legally I could kick them off it? He grinned. Legally, you could charge them rent. But I didn't go nuclear, not yet. Instead, I wrote a letter, addressed it to Linda Det, included copies of the deed, the survey, and a very polite explanation. I stated clearly, they had no legal grounds to evict me. They were, in fact, trespassing. I gave him 30 days to remove the communal dock and shed, or I'd file suit. They didn't take it well. Their response came fast, another legal notice. They claimed I misinterpreted the documents, said I was acting in bad faith. They refused to remove anything, and they welcomed the opportunity to have it settled in court. So I took them up for it. The process took months. Filings, countersuits, depositions. I hired a local attorney named Janet Reynolds. 20 years in land disputes, voice like gravel, mind like a scalpel. She looked over the documents and said, "This isn't even close. You own it. All of it." During discovery, we found something interesting. The HOA had known for years my land wasn't part of their jurisdiction. They just assumed I wouldn't fight back. They even used my shoreline in their promotional materials. Lake access from 3 points, including Northern Dock. Janet was furious. The court date came on a warm spring morning. The judge was an older man, half interested at first, but when he saw the original deed and survey, he leaned forward, eyebrows raised. Linda Det was there too, tighter lips than I remembered. Their lawyer argued that, by implication, the land had become HOA property. The judge cut him off. Land titles aren't governed by implication. They're governed by deeds. By noon, the ruling was clear. I was the rightful owner. The HOA was ordered to remove the dock and shed within 60 days. They were barred from contacting me again, and they were ordered to cover part of my legal fees. I walked out of that courthouse feeling 10 feet tall. Weeks later, they came to dismantle the dock. No announcement, just 2 guys in polos unscrewing planks and loading them up. They didn't say a word. I watched from the porch, coffee in hand. When they left, I walked down to the shoreline. The lake was quiet. The water, like glass. For the first time in years, the place felt truly mine again. I didn't rebuild their dock, though I had every right to. Instead, I let the shoreline grow a little wild, just the way my grandfather liked it. I restored the cedar dock that I'd built, added a new bench, and started fishing again. Word must have spread. No more letters, no more knocks. Linda Det resigned later that year. Personal reasons. The new president, a younger guy with a beard and a kayak, sent me a letter. Not a demand. A thank you. Apparently, after the court ruling, the HOA rewrote their covenants, updated maps, and even started a fund to resolve boundary disputes with more respect and transparency. Funny how things work out. Sometimes I still find HOA flyers under my windshield when I drive into town. Invitations to barbecues, offers of voluntary membership. I never attend, but I don't throw them away either. I keep them in a drawer next to the deed. As a reminder, my grandfather built this place. My father protected it. And now, I've earned the right to do the same. Not with hammers, not with fists, but with proof, with truth, and just a little bit of stubbornness.